On a cold, wintry day like today, my favorite part of the zoo is to go to wild sea, to go and sit under the water, looking in at the seals and watching their incredible antics as they frolic through the water, making it look so effortless. There's something about seeing a seal, watching them move through the water, that just reminds us of so much why we love oceans, their joy at being a mammal immersed in water. What we don't often see is the things that happen to seals here in our bay, and work that we do here at Melbourne Zoo to help animals that get rescued, that get into strife. I'm going to take you behind the scenes to meet one of our staff doing an incredible job running the Marine Response Unit and making sure that our animals in our bay get the protection and help they need when they need it. One of the incredible things about living in Melbourne is we live on a bay. We actually interface with this incredible water body that's full of animals. And when I think of Melbourne's bay, I can't stop thinking of Mark Keenan, because Mark, for us here at Zoos Victoria, you actually work so much outside of the walls. You work in a different place. Explain to everyone a little bit about what your job is.
Yes, I don't actually spend much time on zoo grounds at all. I head up and coordinate the Marine Response Unit here out of Melbourne Zoo. And our job is to look after the welfare of wildlife across the state of Victoria, marine wildlife.
So Marine Response Unit, it sounds really exciting. Does an average day, there is no average day, is there? It's like any emergency service. What you do is really dictated about what happens external to our work.
Absolutely, we're at the whim of the weather gods, we're at the whim of the environmental lords out there. We literally respond to what's happening on any given day, and that can be a whole lot of nothing, or it can be everything.
But the phone rings, something's going on. How do you then go about dealing with the case?
It's about gathering as much information and quality information. It's not just about saying, oh, you know, I've got a gut feeling about this. It's trying to gather real information that we can bounce off our vets, and we make decisions about what happens next. And so then once we have that decision in hand, we either sort of, you know, put the troops together and go out and perform a rescue, or we sort of monitor, or we do what's required.
But for people who care about seals, how do they behave on a beach when they see a young seal? What do we really recommend they do first and foremost?
Well, firstly, I should say that there's government protections for these animals, so people aren't allowed to approach a seal within 30 metres. They're very flighty animals, so if you approach too closely, you might drive that animal back to the water. So being respectful of them, watch them from a distance, but if you do see anything that you're slightly concerned about, that's absolutely when you call the Marine Response Unit.
So how many cases would you be responding to in a season?
Well, I think we'll top 800 cases already this year, and we'll have been out almost ourselves in the field, our staff, almost 250 times. So,
wow, that's a lot of injured animals.
And then across the state, coordinating probably over 500, 600 rescues.
We've had call-outs where there's a seal entangled in fishing line, or an animal like that in distress, that clearly something's wrong. How do you go about that?
It's entirely scenario dependent. Right. So we work with an amazing team of people. We have incredible keepers that support the unit here. We have an incredible vet team, from vets all the way through the vet keepers. If we need to go out and look at sedating an animal out in a structure in the middle of Port Phillip Bay, we obviously take vets and vet nurses and things like that. If we're on a beach, on rocks, you know, in the ocean, doing things like that, I might take a more experienced animal handler. So it really is scenario dependent, no two rescues are the same.
Now the best part is not the rescue, the best part is putting the animal back at the end of this, isn't it?
Absolutely. Look, it's a part of a job. I wish we could do it more often, but when we do get to release an animal for an entanglement, or indeed release an animal after a period of rehabilitation, it is the height of the job, absolutely.
And what kinds of animals? Because I talk a lot about seals, but it's not just seals that you're responding to.
It's marine wildlife. So we get a lot of seabirds, penguins, cormorants, you name it. We get sharks and rays, we get turtles, we get the occasional sunfish or a sea snake or things thrown in there.
What are the underlying causes? What are they getting in trouble for?
There's elements of what we see which is natural attrition, I suppose. So animals just that weren't likely to survive being caught up in environmental events, but we also don't always understand what role humans have to play in that space. But we also see things like trauma. We see lots of entanglement, and sadly, every year I'm surprised at the degree of entanglement we see. Without a doubt, the biggest degree of entanglement we see comes from fishing materials, fishing line and fishing nets. But we also see lots of different things that people mightn't expect to entangling.
And so here at Zoos Victoria, thanks to your amazing work, we've learned so much more about what is hurting our marine animals. And we have 2 campaigns that are very much targeted towards helping to stop this.
Absolutely. So Seal the Loop is a fantastic campaign which looks at creating repositories for people to dispose fishing line in so that it's not floating around and potentially entangling animals. We also have another one in Bubbles Not Balloons, which is encouraging people to stop using balloons and indeed move to bubbles. And the reason for that is that balloons obviously is something that can end up in water bodies, is again something that can be ingested or indeed entangle, primarily not so much the balloons but certainly the ribbons and stuff that are typically found on balloons that are released. The more and more we can get out there and educate people, the better, I think, and the more people who are custodians and empowered to protect our wildlife, the better a world that we're going to live in for wildlife and for humans.
I know people think that we only do this because that would be a limitless supply of animals for the zoo. Our goal is not to keep these animals. Our goal is to get them back into the wild.
No, and we're very, very passionate about that. If we can help an animal and get an animal out to the wild, that is rule number 1. Absolutely, we move heaven and earth to rehab animals and get them back out there. Historically, over the 8 years that now we've been in existence, we have had animals brought in to the zoo, and it's only those animals that have been impacted really by humans and have been unreleasable, and we've either been left with the really tough decision of euthanizing that animal or having it here as an ambassador. And they're animals that have been impacted by humans, and we've gone really robust welfare things and gone, do we think it's the right thing to keep this animal here? Can it live a full and wonderful life? And have sort of ticked all those boxes, and yeah, so we've had a few animals stay, but it's absolutely not our agenda.
But the reality also is that when you come and visit our seals, you will see seals that have been rescued, that we've tried to release, that have just not been able to cope in the wild. And there's such amazing ambassadors telling these stories of the incredible work you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Bella is a very unfortunate case. She was a displaced pup that we actually provided some protections for her in the field, but eventually ended up being attacked by a dog on a beach. We found her 3 days later. She was badly impacted by that dog, but also at that point a displaced pup that was dependent on her mother, and we had the difficult choice then of going, we couldn't release her because we thought she would just starve to death, and that's not the right thing to do. So it was either to euthanize Bella or have her come in here and obviously tell her story and how she had been impacted by humans and how we can all be just a little bit more sympathetic for wildlife.
These days, watching Bella interact with the keepers down at Wild Sea, she's having a great life. In fact, I think she's ruling Wild Sea at the moment.
Yeah, she's definitely...
she's a bit the boss of the
she's
place.
She's definitely top dog.
Top dog at the moment.
Absolutely. She's a beautiful little seal, and yeah, we're very fortunate to have her.
Mark, what do you hope for the future? What would you wish we could change?
I think we talked about it before with the balloons campaign. It's something that I suppose, 10 years ago people would have thought it's absolutely normal and fine to release a balloon. And now we go, well, actually it's really not the right thing. And I think we're really starting to wake up and realise that we live in a beautiful place, and if we don't look after it, then no one will. So I really hope that we're just moving towards a better planet where we care more greatly for our wildlife and respect it and give it every chance we can.